Hey guys, I'm here today to do the end of the year book tag. So I've left this quite late, but I didn't plan on doing this, and then I saw quite a few people do it and I really enjoyed hearing their answers, and it made me think of my own answers, so here we are. So sorry if I keep looking away. Albus just coming in, he's rolling around because he wants me to lean over and stroke him. So yeah, I'm having to stop myself from doing that because if I do, I'll get fat all over my face and then I won't manage to do this video. So first question is, and I have way too many books for each answer, I'm aware of that, but we're going to roll with it. So the first question is, do you have any books you need to finish before the end of the year? So I am quite good at, when I'm partway through a book and not enjoying it, just accepting that I'm going to DNF it and not making myself finish. But I do have a few books that I've picked up partway through the year, really enjoyed them, and then not really had any valid reason for why I didn't continue. A lot of those are in my non-fiction November TBR, which I'm going to link up here. So I'm just going to whiz through them and not go into any detail because I've done that already in a recent video. First one being Always Another Country. Always Another Country by Sisonke, Msimang, and I am about 80 pages into this one, so I got quite a chunk in, really enjoyed it. So I would definitely like to finish that one, and I'm going to try and do that before the end of non-fiction November. Another one is Wasted, Coming Back from an Addiction to Starvation by Marya Hornbacher, and again, I am 88 pages through that one, so I would like to get to where Albus is staring at me. And then I'm 60 pages through British on Race, Identity and Belonging by Afua Hirsch, and again I want to finish this definitely before the end of non-fiction November. Now these other three I have here are ones I am considering DNFing. So this was one of my most anticipated releases of years, so I'm so sad to be saying this, and it is Orange World and Other Stories by Karen Russell. So I adored Swamplandia, which is her only novel, and I also absolutely loved her short story collection, St Lucy's Homes for Girls Raised by Wolves. It's phenomenal. It's one of the collections that really got me into fabulous fiction. I didn't love Vampires in the Lemon Grove, which is her second short story collection, and this is her third, and this has a similar tone to Vampires in the Lemon Grove. I've only read two stories, I really didn't care for either of them. If this was anyone else, I'd just give up now, but because it's Karen Russell and I have enjoyed some of her work so much, I'm going to try a couple more stories, but at that point I'm just going to accept that there's no point in forcing myself to read something I'm not enjoying. Another one I have is Sunshine State by Gerard. Again, I mentioned this in my non-fiction November TBR. I'm 2 essays in. First one was amazing, second one not so good, so I'm going to give it another essay. I'm considering like darting around and starting, like if I start an essay and don't like it, just skip to the next one, because I feel like I could love some of them and not others, so I don't know, it's a really silly way to read it. And the other one I'm unsure about is Turning the Tide on Plastic, How Humanity and You Can Make Our Globe Clean Again by Siegle. I found this a little bit introductory, a little bit basic, and I wanted something much more in depth. But I know there's like some how-to handy guides towards the back, which I would like to get to, so yeah, I'm going to try a little bit more, but this may be one that if I don't finish this before the end of the year, then I probably won't keep it. So there are those. I don't know what the next question is, so I'll need to check. The next question, do you have an autumnal book to transition into the end of the year? So we're now about a month away from winter. So I think I've missed that bit. So I'm going to show you some wintry books instead to transition into the winter months. So the first one, I've meant to read this every year since I got it, which was years ago. Around Christmas I mean to read it, and it's The Snow Merchant by Sam Gayton, illustrated by Chris Riddell. And this is about a small town who've never seen snow, and then a man comes to the town to sell snow to them, and mysteries ensue. And it just sounds delightful, and it has beautiful illustrations, and every year I mean to read it in the few days before Christmas, and I never do. So this year will be the year. If not, like I feel like I have to force myself to just not keep it, but I really don't want to do that. And the other one is, and apologies for my pronunciation on this one, I've got this on audiobook as well, so I think I'm going to audiobook it so I don't like just butcher all the names. And it's Sanaaq, an Inuit novel by Nappaaluk. And this is a slice of life, really closely focused on an Inuit family and just their day-to-day lives. So I think a lot of people really wouldn't enjoy this, but I really enjoy slow slice of life family stories. So I'm hoping to really love this one. I feel like it's a perfect one to read this time of year. It says, follows a small semi-nomadic community in northern Quebec. Here they live their lives hunting seal, repairing their kayak and gathering mussels and Blue Sea Ice Before the Tides Come In. These are ordinary, extraordinary lives. Marriages are made and unmade, children are born and named, violence appears in the form of a fearful husband or a hungry polar bear. So I think it sounds amazing. I'm very, very excited for that one. So those are my two sort of wintry transition reads. The next one is there a new release you're still waiting for? And no, there isn't actually. So I find if I'd done this earlier, there would have been, but I don't think there tends to be a lot of new books released in December other than like Christmassy books. A lot of cookbooks come out this time of year for people to get for Christmas and like big glossy books, but I don't think many novels come out in December. So I got a few new books in November that I was really excited about, but all the books I'm excited about now start to come out in sort of January, February, March. There's so many books I've got on my list, but let's not go into them because we'll be here all day. The next question is, what are 3 books you want to read before the end of the year? So I really had to limit this because I could have gone on and on and on, but I figured, you know, I would stick with the 3. So the first one, and the one I really, really would like to get to, I've only got this a couple of months ago, is Inland by Téa Obreht. So this was one of my most anticipated releases of the year. I love The Tiger's Wife, and it was her only novel, and I've just every year been checking since I read it to see if she had another one out. So I really can't wait to get to this one. Now I know her novels are, like, they're not really highly rated on Goodreads, and I think that's because they're like a Marmite type thing. Some people just aren't going to enjoy it. What I'm particularly excited about with this one isn't just that it's by Téa Obreht and I really like what she does, but also what it's about. It just feels like it's something I haven't read before. This is set in the American West, which I feel like, I read a lot of historical fiction, but that's not an era I read about. And certainly I don't read about books set in the American West that also have like fabulous elements. I feel like you don't often have those two things paired. So I'm very intrigued by this one. I have no idea what to expect. I'm just hoping to really enjoy it. And then the other 2 are on my list for different reasons. I've had them much longer. I got this, I think Jen got me this for Christmas last year. It's a short story collection. It's Heads of the Coloured People by Nafissa, Thompson-Spires. And from the moment I unwrapped it, I was so excited to get to it. And it's been the book that all year I've been meaning to read. So I'm going to be really annoyed if I let myself get to the end of the year and haven't read it. And I've barely read any short story collections this year. So it'll be a really good chance to fit another one in. So it says, Nafissa Thompson-Spires interrogates our supposedly post-racial era. To wicked and devastating effects, she exposes the violence, both external and self-inflicted, that threatens Black Americans no matter their apparent success. It shows characters in crisis, both petty and catastrophic. So yeah, it sounds really good. I've had a flick through, I really like the writing style, and I just really want to read more short story collections, so excited about that one. And then lastly, I've had this one for a couple of years now, and I heard people talk about her collection of essays and rave about it since that came out again a couple of years ago, and I still haven't read her novel, and that is The Border of Paradise by Esme, Weijun, Wang. From the moment I got this in the post, I felt like it's a book I could absolutely love, and I just haven't picked it up. And I think one of the reasons I haven't picked it up is because I know it's going to be super depressing, so I have to be in the right frame of mind for it. I feel like I am at the moment, and I don't know why, but I feel like I like reading more moody books at this time of year. So this is set in post-war Brooklyn, and it follows a family who, the father is the pillar of the Polish immigrant community, but he's struggling to fit in and he's racked by insomnia. And he inherits the family fortune, and he then meets a Taiwanese woman and marries her, and they have their children in the US together, and it's following the family as they fall apart. And I think there's quite a lot in this to do with mental illness and like severe depression. So yeah, I don't think it's going to be an easy read, but I'm really intrigued by the family setup in this one, and I've heard such amazing things about her essay collection that I really want to get to that one. Definitely need to get to it before the end of the year because it's just embarrassing. The next question is there a book you think could still shock you and become your favourite book of the year? And I've chosen 2 for this. So this is an odd question because I guess if I'm saying now I think a book could become my favourite book of the year, I'm not really saying I'm shocked by it. But I think what you're supposed to mean by this question is, do you think a book could top your current favourite? What I've done is I've chosen 2 books that I haven't heard anyone review, and they've got mixed ratings on Goodreads, and I picked them up simply because I think I love them, and I didn't really look into them very much. All those things are really unlike me, and I just feel like they're really me books and I could really love them, but other than, you know, what they're about, I don't have much to base that on. is what I'm saying. This first one, I have read this awful short story collection. So this is Heart Spring Mountain by MacArthur, and I read her collection a few months ago, Half Wild. I thought it was amazing. I'll link the video up here where I spoke about that. And I'd really like to try and get to this before the end of the year. I don't know if I'll manage it, but I really, really want to. So this is set in August 2011, and Tropical Storm Irene has just wreaked havoc on Vermont, and it follows a family as Vale receives a call saying that her mother Bonnie has disappeared, and she drops everything and returns home to look for her. And what MacArthur writes about is women and their lives in rural Vermont. And these books her stories are really filled with complex women making really difficult decisions, with beautiful writing coupled with the natural world. These people live really close to the natural world, and I think this is a perfect time for you to be reading that sort of thing. So yeah, I really loved her short story collection. It was almost a 5-star, and so I feel like if one of her best short story collections was a novel, I would give it 5 stars. So I'm hoping this is that, but we shall see. So the next one is Willa and Hesper by Amy Feltman, and I picked this one up in Gaze the Word, which is a bookshop in London. It's like my favourite bookshop, and I saw the cover and I thought it was absolutely beautiful. And I opened the cover and I read the blurb and I thought it sounded amazing. But then I read this quote, which is printed on the inside of the dust jacket, and it's from the book. Or maybe we'll be lucky and we'll find each other after all of my grief and anger and sadness have caramelised into acceptance. And I'll see your hair peeking out from the back of your jacket collar on a real street in a real moment, and I'll recognise you irrefutably. And in that moment, I'll know just what to say, even if it's just as simple as a smile and raising my hand to you. It's you, and I am still me. Hello. And I just thought that was absolutely beautiful. So this is about 2 girls who meet one another in New York and fall in love, and I think there's lots to do with their family history, which causes things to fracture, and you follow their relationship from there. And I just think it's going to be beautifully written. So it could be just an okay book because the ratings are just average and I haven't heard anyone talk about it, but I think it sounds like I could love it, so I'm hoping it surprises me. And it's amazing. So I think there's one more question, and it is, have you already started making reading plans for 2020? Yes, I have. I don't make big plans anymore. I used to make like really big plans, like a list of 10, and I'm not very good at following it. It's really fun to make it and really fun to do the check-ins, but mainly the check-ins were just me saying I failed. So my biggest plan for next year is that I would really like to reduce my stack of unread books, shelves. So I have about 110 unread books, which for me is such a small amount, and I'm really pleased with it. The last couple of years I've reduced it by around 100 each year, and the majority of that reduction has been unhauling and DNFing books. That's how I reduce my collections, because I buy too many books to just reduce by reading. I've got myself to a point now where I don't really want to unhaul any of these, so it's going to be either I read them and enjoy them, or I read them part way and DNF them. That's how I'm going to get through them. Now I would like to have around, I think 30 would be my happy number. Obviously I won't know until I get there, but I used to be a person who only had a few unread books when I was a teenager, and I loved it. And I love being a rereader, and there's so much, well, there's no guilt attached to rereading when you don't have loads of unread books. So the 2 reasons I want to have way less books that I haven't read are not to do with space or finances, which I know is like really a privileged place to be. The reasons I want to have less books are, firstly, I really would love to be able to reread without guilt. I love rereading books, and I think of all the books I've read, I'm thinking in my head, oh, I love that book, I read that like 2 years ago, and then I look and I read it 5 years ago, and I'm like, it's just really sad that I won't make the time to reread that. And I keep these books, I'm like, I keep the books I'm going to reread, and then I don't reread them, so what's the point? So I'd really like to not have any guilt attached to that, and that's never going to happen when I have this many unread books. It's just not. And the other reason, and the bigger reason really, is that I have realised that this is who I am as a reader, and this doesn't apply to everybody because I'm sure some people are way better than me. I buy books in the moment, and I'll have spurts of interest in certain things, and I'll overbuy. I'll buy 10 books on that field, and then I'll read 2 of them. And then 2 months later, my interest has moved on to something else, and I'll buy 10 more and read 2 of them. And then a year later and I'll still have 8 of those books left, and I'll get to the point where I'll probably, and have done this, unhaul some of them, wasted my money, and have sort of had this guilt attached. Now I know if I had way less books and I bought books and read them within a couple of months, my interest wouldn't wane because I'd be reading them at the peak of my interest. And that's the biggest reason really. I want to get myself to the point where I can have this, rather than a really stagnant selection of books, have a way smaller selection that just constantly rotates. That's what I'd really like to do. So those are my biggest reasons. The other thing I would like to do next year is, I will buy some books certainly, but I would like to use my library as a resource a lot more. I've started using the library a lot more in the last few months and I've really enjoyed it. I just found it a really nice place to go and I really like supporting my library. And I've also found that I've read some of my favourite books this year have been from the library, and I now will buy them because I want to own them and I want to support the author financially. But it's been fine to just read them from the library the first time round and to not have them as my own books. And so I think to myself, well, there's so many books that I just give 3 stars and then get rid of, and I spend money on them, and I could just support my library and then feel no guilt at just giving them back to the library when I'm done with them. So what I've been doing is, as I've read books in the library this year that I've really loved, I've added them to the list of books that I've read that I would like to buy, and that's been really nice. And I feel like it'll be really nice being able to buy a book knowing that I love it. So that's what I'd like to try and do as much as possible. The books that my library has access to, I will say, my library is a great library, but I think certainly when I see people from the US do library book hauls, it's insane the level of what people who probably live in like bigger cities in the US have access to at their library would just never happen here. Like, we just wouldn't have books from those sort of publishers, wouldn't be stocked, they wouldn't get, like, there's loads of new releases in my library that are fairly big releases and they just don't get them in. So I know I'm limited by what my library gets in, so there are some books, if I want access to them, particularly books that aren't published in the UK, I'm just going to have to buy them, but that's something I'd like to do too. So yeah, those are my plans for next year. These are my plans for December. Let me know what your plans are, and please, please, please let me know if you've read any of these books, and particularly, has anyone read these 2? I would love to know, and let me know if you did, what your thoughts were. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!